The data standards body maintains the consumer data standards openly, in full public view. Any change is carried out after consultation with consumer data right participants.
The actual process for setting the standards or making a formalised change to the standards, while it goes through the data standards body for the consultation process, is actually at the discretion of the data standards chair, which is the legislated role. Currently, that role is occupied by Andrew Stevens.
The consultation process allows the community to request change, provide feedback, and follow the progress of all decisions. Change may be initiated by various sources. Once the need for change is identified, a decision proposal is published and consultation begins. The CDR community provides feedback. This may result in changes to the decision proposal. After feedback, the proposed decision is reviewed and finally approved or rejected by the Data Standards Chair.
To facilitate that process, the data standards body, under the guidance of the chair and the Data Standards Advisory Committee, which is established to advise the chair, has put together a process that has been iterated and developed over the last 4 years for consultation and standard setting. And broadly speaking, that process has 3 stages. The first stage is when we identify a change to make to the standards or a new standard that must be made. The second phase is where we consult on that change. We define the problem, we work with the community, we come up with proposals, we reject proposals because people think that they're bad or they're good, and we take new proposals that are suggested, etc., etc. And we work through a process of getting to the point of a proposal which we believe that the community feedback has been incorporated into and is appropriate and good quality. And then we formulate that and give it to the chair for consideration. So that's 3 phases: the identification, consultation, and then decision making. During the identification phase, when we're actually identifying a change, changes come in from a number of different sources. There are different ways that changes can be identified, whether very large changes or very small changes. On the policy and legislative side, a new sector could be designated. A new set of data clusters could be set. The rules for the CDR set by Treasury could change. There could be a change to the rules which requires a change to the standards, or there could be external changes to standards that we rely on, such standards set by the OIDF or other external international bodies, which we then need to incorporate. And that's particularly the case for information security. Changes, however, can also be raised by the participants in the CDR, the data holders or the data recipients, or even consumer advocacy groups or industry bodies can all make recommendations for change. Hey, have you considered this? Can you change this? We think this needs to be fixed. And they can also be sources of change. And the other obvious source of change is the data standards body itself. We may identify in our work that, we've made a mistake, or there's a change that needs to be fixed for the future, or there's a better way of doing something now that a new sector's coming in and we need to simplify things or make things better. These are all sources of change that all get bundled together. Once a change has been identified, we then do the consultation phase, which all occurs on GitHub.
The DSB creates a decision proposal discussing one or more of the changes identified, requesting feedback on specified questions, and often making recommendations. Each decision proposal is published as an issue in the CDS Standards repository on GitHub. The decision proposal issue contains a description of the DP and the full decision proposal as an attachment. The DP consultation period appears in the description. The consultation period may be extended in special cases. During the consultation period, the status label of a DP issue indicates it is open for feedback. The CDR community then provides feedback and the DSP responds. This process continues until the consultation period ends and the community input has been considered. The community provides feedback by commenting in GitHub on the decision proposal issue. The DSP comments in response. The DSP may respond by amending the decision proposal. The amended DP is attached to the DP issue, and the issue description is amended to note the change. The consultation process continues iteratively until the consultation period ends.
Once a change has been identified, however, we then do the consultation phase, which all occurs on GitHub. For very large changes, we would write a decision proposal, which is a Word document in a special form, which we write, and then we create a PDF and we put that on GitHub, and we do a dedicated consultation for a period of time. And those decision proposals are quite comprehensive in describing the problem, the different options we've identified, and if a recommendation is already on the table, the recommendation will be made. Sometimes those decision proposals are really very short and we're just saying, what's your opinion on this? In other cases, they're highly specific and we've got a very specific recommendation. But in each case, there is a number assigned to the decision proposal, and there is a thread on GitHub which can be used to provide feedback from any participant that wishes to, and there's a time frame for that decision proposal. For very small changes, we also have a process called the maintenance iteration, which is how we maintain the standards. And in that scenario, because there could be very, very small changes, such as can you make this field optional or add a field X to an existing payload, we run a cycle, a process where we prioritize a whole range of very, very small changes or medium-sized changes in some cases, and we work through them with the community as a group. And then at the end of that, we take all of the results and put them into one decision proposal for approval. Once we have got to the point of a decision proposal actually being approved and we know what the change is, the change has been identified, then we will submit it to the chair for consideration. The way we do that is in a document called a decision document. We have a decision proposal and then we have a decision. Now that decision is not yet made. The decision has been proposed, but it is a different format to the document. It's much more, this is what is proposed, this is the decision to be made. And we submit that to the chair. The chair, historically, the chair has chosen at their discretion to then give that to the Data Standards Advisory Committee. And if no feedback is obtained, the chair will then review the decision on its merits, look at all the history that's been gone through, and will either reject or accept the decision. If it's rejected, it will not be incorporated in the standards, and we will go back to the community with the feedback from the chair to go through the process of consultation again. When we are going through the process of consultation, as I mentioned earlier, we do the consultation on GitHub. And on GitHub, we assign each large decision proposal a number. And we put labels on that issue so people can, at a glance, look at all the consultations and see where they're at. Now, on that, we include the industry that is affected, energy, banking, telecommunications, cross-sectoral, in case it affects all industries. We indicate the phase that the decision is in, planned or proposal pending, whether the feedback, it's open for feedback, so a decision has been published and feedback is being actively sought, or whether the feedback period is closed, which means we're now considering all the feedback and turning it into a decision, and whether a decision has been taken or not taken. Sometimes the feedback results in the requirement for more consideration, so we won't even submit it to the chair. So those are the phases that you can expect to see through the decision proposals. Once a decision proposal has been approved or closed for whatever reason, we will leave it open for a period of time so that people can see and go back and see the results, and it doesn't just disappear. But after that period of time is over, we will close the issue and it will no longer appear, but you can still find it on GitHub by looking at closed issues.
Development of the consumer data standards is carried out openly in consultation with the CDR community. Thank you for your participation in the consumer data standards.